All right, let's get some facts on the, the fake media. They're all like, ooh, Maryland man accidentally deported. Supreme Court ordered Trump administration to return him to the United States. Lies. Garcia is not a citizen of the United States. He is a citizen of El Salvador. He was in this country illegally. Two courts stated he has two deportation orders on him. An appellate court said he needs to be deported, and so did the immigration court. And the Supreme Court absolutely did not order the Trump administration to return this MS13 gang member, non-citizen of the United States, back to the United States. They did not say that. I'll see if I can find the brief and put it up on here. It'll be hard to read though. But in their brief, they did not order. So the fake news is twisting everything out of the way, just twisted everything. If you look at the actual brief of the Supreme Court, it tells a whole different story. But the fake news, the leftist Democrats, that's what they say. You have some dickhead senator up in Maryland that says that he's going to go down to El Salvador and make sure the guy's okay. Who cares? He's an MS-13 gang. He has been found guilty of trafficking along with many other crimes. I don't care if his girlfriend up in Maryland and she's got 3 kids. Who gives a shit? The guy is an MS-13 gang member, known criminal, and a citizen of El Salvador. And none of these lower courts that are doing, there's like 170 some lawsuits against the Trump administration. That's more than the last 250 years of our country have been brought against an administration. Booba Baba had, I think, 14. Biden had 14 or 16 or something like that, and Trump has had over 160. These lower courts do not have the right to tell the President of the United States what he can and can't do. That's period. Okay? And every case so far that has gone in front of the Supreme Court, they have sided with the President of the United States. That's a fact. The President of El Salvador, I'll put what he said at the end of this, so keep watching. He said he is not going to smuggle Garcia, a citizen of El Salvador, and who is in prison for crimes he committed. He is not going to smuggle him back into the United States, and he will not be released from prison. And if that dickhead senator wants to go down there and make sure he's okay, the El Salvador, and a bunch of Democrats are going to go with him and some rhinos, he doesn't even have to let those people into his country. And as far as him going down there and going to prison to check on the guy, it's just a show. You're going to spend taxpayers' dollars for a free trip to El Salvador, and that's exactly what he wants to do. And El Salvador president, they do not have to let them into that prison to see the guy. So anyway, but the fake news has us all twisted out of shape. Would you, as an American citizen, do you really want a proven criminal, an MS-13 gang leader, back in this country? Why would you want somebody like that in this country? Don't we have enough of our own criminals? You have all these illegals that have been let into this country who have murdered. The MS-13 gang members chopped, I think it was a girl, could have been a guy, I'm not sure, chopped them up with machetes, cut them up in pieces while they were still alive. They rape women, they kill women, they molest children, and you're fine with that? You fucking people are sick. People like that don't belong in our country. And he's not getting back in this country. So anyway, keep watching, because I'm going to put what the El Salvadorian president at the end of this, and I'll see if I can find the Supreme Court brief that does not state, President Trump has to bring that guy back into the country. And it doesn't matter if this, let's say the Supreme Court says you got to bring him back. Fuck the Supreme Court. Because they don't have the right to dictate to a foreign country leader what they have to do. Our court system doesn't have that right. So it doesn't matter what the Supreme Court says, what the lower court says, but anyway, the Supreme Court did not order their return. They said something about facilitating it and that the lower court, it was kind of wishy-washy, but it does not state that he has to return that guy to the United States, that criminal, that MS13 gang member. You should be happy he's out of this country. And I'll see if I can find the brief. Some of the stuff is hard to find because, fake news, they bury it. You do a Google search. Google's on the left. They're extremely leftist. That's why they take down so many innocent comments from people that leave comments on my videos. I've taken some down too, that people just get nasty and want to start something. So anyway, if you want to subscribe, hit the little bee in the bottom right-hand corner. Keep watching, and I'll put the clip of what the El Salvadorian president stated and what Bondi stated and the other guy, Steve, forget what he does. He's in the president's cabinet too. I'll put that whole clip on here so you can see from the start of what he says to the end of the conversation. I'm not going to cut it the way the fake news cuts things. So keep watching. And I really appreciate anybody watching my videos. Hit the little bee in the bottom right corner to subscribe. I'm not making any money out of this. Even all my product reviews, I pay for all that stuff. You got to have 1,000 people to make money. That's never going to happen. I got like 400. So it's rather amusing. So anyway, I really do appreciate everybody watching my videos. Tell an enemy, tell a friend, tell anybody. I don't care. Just let somebody smash that thumbs up. Bam. But even I don't smash the thumbs up when I watch other videos. Half the time I forget. So anyway, thanks for watching and keep watching.
Go ahead. Let's hear the question from this very low-rated anchor at CNN.
Do you plan to ask President
Low-rated
to help return the man who your administration says was mistakenly
Which one is that?
deported? The man who was mistakenly deported to El Salvador?
Well, let me ask Pam, would you answer that question?
Sure, President. First and foremost, he was illegally in our country. He had been illegally in our country. And in 2019, two courts, an immigration court and an appellate immigration court, ruled that he was a member of MS13 and he was illegally in our country. Right now, it was additional paperwork had needed to be done. That's up to El Salvador if they want to return him. That's not up to us. The Supreme Court ruled, President, that if, as El Salvador wants to return him, this is international matters, foreign affairs, if they wanted to return him, we would facilitate it, meaning provide a plane.
So will you return him,
And
President?
you are doing a great job. Thank you, Pam. Wait a minute. Could you just also respond to that question? Because, it's asked by CNN, and they always ask it with a slant because they're totally slanted because they don't know what's happening. That's why nobody's watching them. But would you answer that question also, please?
Yes, gladly. So, as Pam mentioned, there's an illegal alien from El Salvador. So, with respect to you, he's a citizen of El Salvador. So, it's very arrogant even for American media to suggest that we would even tell El Salvador how to handle their own citizens as a starting point. As two immigration courts found that he was a member of MS13. When President Trump declared MS13 to be a foreign terrorist organization, that meant that he was no longer eligible under federal law, which I'm sure you know, you're very familiar with the INA, that he was no longer eligible for any form of immigration relief in the United States. So he had a deportation order that was valid, which meant that under our law, he's not even allowed to be present in the United States and had to be returned because of the foreign terrorist designation. This issue was then, by a district court judge, completely inverted, and a district court judge tried to tell the administration that they had to kidnap a citizen of El Salvador and fly him back here. That issue was raised to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said the district court order was unlawful and its main components were reversed 9-0 unanimously, stating clearly that neither Secretary of State nor the President could be compelled by anybody to forcibly retrieve a citizen of El Salvador from El Salvador who again is a member of MS13, which is, I'm sure you understand, rapes little girls, murders women, murders children, is engaged in the most barbaric activities in the world, and I can promise you, if he was your neighbor, you would move right away.
So you don't plan
But
to
the
ask for
Supreme
a
Court's
waiver
asking
that?
to,
And
that
what was the ruling
facilitate-
in the Supreme Court, Steve? Was it 9-0?
Yes, it was a 9-0
In our favor?
in our favor against the district court ruling, saying that no district court has the power to compel the foreign policy function of the United States. As Pam said, the ruling solely stated that if this individual, at El Salvador's sole discretion, was sent back to our country, that we could deport him a second time.
Well,
No version of this legally ends up with him ever living here because he is a citizen of El Salvador. That is the president of El Salvador. Your questions about it, per the court, can only be directed to him.
I asked
¿Usted lo liberaría, Presidente
Can President Bukele weigh in on this? Do you plan to return him?
Well, I'm supposed to not suggesting that I smuggle a terrorist into the United States, right?
It's only
How
zero.
can I smuggle? How can I return him to the United States? Like, could I smuggle him into the United States, or whether I do it? Of course, I'm not going to do it. It's like, I mean, the question is preposterous. How can I smuggle a terrorist into the United States? I don't have the power to return him to the United States.
so you could release him inside El Salvador.
Yeah, but I'm not releasing, I mean, we're not very fond of releasing terrorists into our country. We just turned the murder capital of the world to the safest country in the Western Hemisphere, and you want us to go back into the releasing criminals so we can go back to being the murder capital of the world? And that's not going to happen.
Well, they'd love to have a criminal, released into our
I mean,
country.
there's a fascination.
They would love it. But
Yeah.
They're sick. These are sick people. Marco, do you have something to say?
Yeah, I mean, Stephen outlined it. I don't understand what the confusion is. This individual is a citizen of El Salvador. He was illegally in the United States and was returned to his country. That's where you deport people, back to their country of origin. Except for Venezuela, that wasn't refusing to take people back, or places like that. I can tell you this, Mr. President. No, the foreign policy of the United States is conducted by the President of the United States, not by a court. And no court in the United States has a right to conduct the foreign policy of the United States. It's that simple. End of story.
And that's what the Supreme Court held, by the way, to Marco's point. The Supreme Court said exactly what Marco said, that no court has the authority to compel the foreign policy function of the United States. We won a case 9-0, and people like CNN are portraying it as a loss, as usual, because they want foreign terrorists in the country who kidnap women and children. But President Trump, his policy is foreign terrorists that are here illegally get expelled from the country, which, by the way, is a 90-10 issue.
Well, Mr. President, you said that if the Supreme Court said someone needed to be returned, that you would abide by that. You said that on Air Force One just a few days ago. And
How
they
long
said
do
that
we have to
it
answer
must
this
be
question
reciprocal.
from you? Why don't you just say, isn't it wonderful that we're keeping criminals out of our country? Why can't you just say that?
Well, it's illegal.
Why do you
So
go
as long as it's
over and
very
over,
honest.
and that's why nobody watches you anymore? You have no credibility. Please, go ahead.
President Trump, thank you so much. How many